السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة. أما بعد. Jazakallahukhair, my dear respected brothers and sisters, for tuning in, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for the fact that you want to learn more about your deen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this session be surrounded by the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the past, brothers and sisters, we talked about gradually the evidences of how could we establish our deen and how could we build our faith gradually based on concrete evidences. And in the past month, we were talking about and how to prove prophecy. So initially we said, can a prophecy is possible? That's the very first lecture. Then we talked about, the next step is like how could possibly can we prove prophecy? That's the next step. And today, brothers and sisters, we're going to be taking another notch. We're going to be talking about the description of a true prophecy, the description of prophecy's evidences. Okay, so if there is a prophet that exists, how can we know that this guy is a prophet? So there is many evidence that we need to evaluate, because we have to, when we apply these evidences, we have to apply it evenly on all the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all the true prophets have indeed these characteristics, because otherwise anyone can come out of any corner of earth and would claim to be a prophet. So the question here, brothers and sisters, is that we want to make sure that we have standardized certain things to make sure that we apply it to each and every individual, to make sure that we are just in our classification and just in the way we treat each and every individual, because otherwise there is things can be willy-nilly and very flexible. The truth can be mixed with the falsehood, and the falsehood can be mixed with the truth. So bidnillah ta'ala, what we're going to be doing now is trying to how could we bidnillah ta'ala have a set of characteristics to show us how could we prove a true prophecy bidnillah ta'ala. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about this bidnillah ta'ala one bit at a time. So what is the description of prophecies evidence bidnillah ta'ala? Okay, so based on that, brothers and sisters, we can observe there are certain characteristics that we must have in order for us to show that this guy or this individual is a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The very first evidence that we have to make sure that we are aware of is what we call the multiple. What does that mean? So this evidence, the multiple, means that each and every prophet don't have only one evidence to show that he's a prophet. So this evidence of prophecy is to show us that each and every prophet, brothers and sisters, is not limited to one evidence, but rather his prophecy is based on multiple evidences, and with different characteristics. Imam al-Jawzi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, have made this clear, and he said the following. He said, many scholars in theology of Islam, have neglected this fact of plurality of evidences for prophecy, and believe that the prophecy is only stand on one proof, which is the miracles. And this is wrong. And this is unfortunately this misconception also many Muslims tend to think about. Like they think, all of prophet his only evidence of prophecy that he must have miracles. No, it's based on multiple evidences. Multiple evidence, not just miracles. Yeah, for instance, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had the fact that his lineage, the fact that the Quran, his characteristics, the way he worshipped, the language of the Quran, evidence, miracles within the Quran, miracles outside the Quran, and we're going to be talking about all these evidences that proves the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when it comes to each and every prophet, the same thing. It's not just limited. Okay, the prophet have miracles. He's definitely a prophet. No, it doesn't work that way. So, and this is something that we have to, as Muslims, we have to understand that the way you prove a prophet, not just based on miracles. is based on multiple evidences. And that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we are aware of. So number one is what? Is the fact that each and every prophet have multiple evidences to prove his prophecy, not just based on miracles, And the second point. So the point number one is multiple. Second point is certainty. What does it mean? What do we mean by certainty? What does it mean by certainty, brothers and sisters? Is the fact that this prophet is for sure is a prophet, and his prophecy is full of truthfulness, that with certain evidence that prove his prophecy definitely without any doubt whatsoever. So the evidence that he comes up with are clear, are pure, and they're coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have indicated this in many ways in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وآتينا معه الكتاب وأنزلنا معه الكتاب والحديد ليأمر الناس بالقسط. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he says, we sent what? We sent our prophets with bayinat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, بل هم بينات في صدور الذين أوتوا العلم. These are what? Bayinat, clear proofs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ولقد أتينا موسى subhanahu wa ta'ala have given Moses, Prophet Moses, al-bayinat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given clear proofs to show what? He is a it's not just wallahi whatsoever. And that's something that we have to make sure that we understand, brothers and sisters. Okay? So this is something. So the second thing is what? Certainty. Number one is what? The prophet must have multiple evidences to show his prophecy. And second thing is the prophet must have certainty. And the thing is, subhanAllah, one thing that we have to understand comes to and the proof that prophet that, and Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah be pleased, commented on that. Some people might mistranslate that in a way or another. And what do we mean by that, brothers and sisters? And just bear with me to make sure that you understand this point. He said, but this does not mean, when it comes to certainty, he said, but this does not mean that all are equal in clarity and transparency. So all the evidences that the prophet comes with, all the evidences that the prophet comes with, they're not all equal in clarity. But why? He said, no, it doesn't mean that all people are equal in terms of clarity and transparency to understand its content. Yeah, subhanAllah. And this is part of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, part of the wisdom of God. That the thing is, not all the proofs that the prophet comes with, people have different levels of intelligence. And for instance, there are proofs that for the knowledgeable people understand. There are proofs for people who are literate. People can understand. There are proofs for people who are illiterate, for people to understand. So there are different levels of what of certainty. Because thing is sometimes, and that's the point, brothers and sisters. The more you learn, the more it becomes apparent to you that this man is a prophet. Like for instance, this is something because we have to understand this and make sure that people are aware of this. Like for instance, let's say I gave a very complicated evidence to prove a prophecy, or a very sophisticated evidence of a prophet X to someone who was illiterate, and he did not understand it. Look, well, this is not clear. This is the fact that I don't understand it, that means that this man is not a prophet. No, that's the point, and that's the beauty of it too. Just because you understand it does not mean that he's not a prophet. That means that you're full of knowledge. You have to learn more and educate yourself more, and possibly ask more questions for you to come to that point where you understand that evidence. And that's part of the mercy and justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the fact that not all evidences are the same, because humans are different, have different, they understand things differently. They have different level of education. They have different levels of understanding. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, part of his mercy, like for instance, يعني, Ibn Taymiyyah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, for instance, and he said this in his quote here, and he says, for the specifics of anatomy, the magnitude of a planet and their movement and so on, all the creation are in need of knowledge of the Creator and His Messenger, and what is most needed of the religion of God. But for God, generous to his servants with generosity and ease. And that's the point. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is part of his generousness, that he gave us different levels of evidences, so many people can understand those evidences based on their level of knowledge. And that's something that is indeed important. Point number three, departing from the ability of the human beings. Okay, so the evidences, and this is based on number two, is that the evidences or the miracles that they come up with, it have to be departing, it have to be above the ability of human beings. And what does it mean by that? That what the prophets brought as miracles or proofs must be beyond the ability of a human race for them to be able to do it. This characteristics is one of the most fundamental differences between prophecy, real prophets, and people who claim to be prophets, like musicians or fortune telling and etc. Because the kind of miracles that they come up with is characterized by something that no human beings can do. Sometimes people could, like for instance, by optical illusions or by the help of the jinn, can trick people to show as if they are doing miraculous things. Like for instance, whether it was making something appear and disappear, possibly flying, so that sort of thing, or possibly walking in water. That some people can do that, but there are certain miracles that cannot be done only by the prophets of Allah, because this is beyond the ability of the human beings. And this is, brothers and sisters, Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala believes in what he said. He said the following: the kind of the verses of the prophet is beyond the power of humankind and the capacity of any being, even the animals. He said the verses of the prophet are beyond the capacity that no one was who sent with these things except for the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's not possible for any human beings to come up with such things. That's the distinction. You have to understand that how to distinguish between a real prophet and people who claim to be fake prophets, who are, like for instance, musicians or fortune telling and etc. Okay. Fourth point, and one of the fourth point that we want to come up with is what? Seclusions. What does it mean by that? It's that what it meant by this evidence, brothers and sisters, is the fact that this proof of a prophecy is not given to anyone, like these evidences and these miracles, and it's based on the previous point. The miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given to these prophets are not given to anyone else except for prophets. Okay? What do we mean by that? That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have given a miracle, Allah would not be given it to anyone else except for a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So, we have to understand that, brothers and sisters, that there is two things that we go about proving this point. And in Arabic, they call it ad-dal wal-madlul. Like for instance, a prophet and the evidence. And these evidences are all given to prophets and not given to anyone else. And this is part of the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which that he would not have given these evidences to, like, liars or musicians or fortune tellers or people who are illusionists and things like that. Part of the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the only secluded people have these proofs to aid them to prove their prophecy. And this is something, brothers and sisters, indeed important. And now we're going to go into a critical point that many people tend to undermine. Even some sects within Islam have deviated because of that point. And this is very important for people who to understand. Okay. Someone said that we have no sound. Can you guys hear me okay? Can anyone just respond? Can you guys hear me okay? Anyone could just text. Of the people who are listening, can anyone text to make sure that you could hear me okay? Yes, alhamdulillah. Good. So what Imam al-Jawziyya has said, he said the following. He said that some Muslim theologians, like the Ash'aris, what did they say? They said in order for a prophet to be a true prophet, he have to come up, and this is what he said. He said, uh, uh, they said the following. A number of theologians and scholars who followed the Ash'ari, the school of thought, they were wrong in this description, and they thought that the evidence for a prophecy in terms of its truth is not specific to the prophecy, and they thought it could appear in the hands of musicians and others, okay, and believe there is no difference between what happens in the hands of prophets and other musicians, but it have to be, and they concluded the following, that it have to have an aspect of a challenge. So what did the Ash'aris think? Unfortunately, they think, well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have the same challenge to other musicians and fortune tellers. The only thing that made the prophets different is that the prophet challenged the people with this miracle. Again, I'm going to say this again so people would understand this. Okay, the Ash'aris think that yes, the same proofs can be obtained by people other than our prophets. Okay, but the only difference that the prophets are able to do is challenge their people with this evidence, and this is something that is indeed wrong, and this is what not Ahl Sunnah and Jama'ah believes in, and we're gonna disprove that bit in that time. So, but why? I'm gonna prove why the saying is wrong. The saying that a prophet must come with a challenge plus proofs to have prophecy. So, what the Ash'aris think, again, I want to make sure that people understand this. The Ash'aris say that in order for a prophet to be a prophet, okay, he must have a proof to prophecy plus a challenge. He has to challenge his people. So what this is wrong at three levels. Why is it wrong? Number one is because the challenge of a prophet is based on false perception of a nature of the evidence of a prophet. It's not we don't whether a prophet challenge or not challenge, it wouldn't make any difference as long as what these proofs are not given to anyone else. So this is not a characteristics of what prophets have come up with. So that's number one. The prophet does not need to challenge his people. Okay. Second point is for those who require the challenge aspect, they said the miracle does not indicate itself, and the miracle doesn't indicate for itself the need for prophecy, and in itself, a prophecy or the miracle in itself isn't enough. It's enough. So why do you have to challenge these people? As long as people cannot do it, then khalas, it's over. So that's point number two. Point number three is the following: is that, and that's the most important point. There is no evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah that saying that the people have to the prophets have to challenge their own people, to prove their prophecy. So again, how could we disprove this again? Okay, number one is what? Is if a challenge of a proof is not, it's based, there is no evidence. The nature of the evidence of prophecy, there is no basis for the means of a challenge. Okay, it's not the characteristics or the evidence of the prophecy is not characterized by the challenge aspect of it. Two, the miracles themselves by themselves are enough, are adequate. Third, and there is no evidence in the Quran and the Sunnah to show that there is a for it. continuing with the description of a true prophecy. Okay. Number 5 is withdrawing from the opposition. What does it mean by this, brothers and sisters? The meaning of this characteristics is that prophets are forbidden to any creation to bring the same. Okay, because it's beyond the capacity of the jinn and the ins. So the proofs of the prophets are forbidden to any creation for any creation to come up with the same thing. Okay, this characteristic is based on the third characteristics, obviously, in which that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given this to only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have not given this to anyone else except for the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And last but not least is disparity. This characteristic, brothers and sisters, to show that the evidence of the prophets, it is not in the same level and strength, and they're in varying degrees. And this is kind of we kind of addressed this in the past, but this is kind of to make it by themselves. Yeah, this point, and we talked about this in the previous point, that disparity meaning that not all the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that have given to the prophet are in the same level. Why? And for the same reason that we mentioned before, but here we made it as a point by itself, meaning that the miracles that are given to prophets, there are of two levels. Okay, they are what? Of two levels. One, we call them major evidences, and the second one is what? Minor evidences. So each and every prophet have major evidences and minor evidences. What are the major evidences? Meaning that the major evidences are evidences or miracles are given specifically to each and every prophet. Like, for instance, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is given what? The Quran. Prophet Musa have the ability to split the sea. Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, he have the ability to heal or make people come back from death. Okay, so each and every prophet have this big miracle that proves his prophecy. When it comes to minor evidences, are evidences that many prophets shared. Like, for instance, some prophets, for instance, they increased the quantity of food. Some people were not burned by fire. Some people who this minor miracles. So each and every prophet have disparity in the level of the miracles that they were given. Okay, they were given, each and every prophet was giving major and minor miracles, or major or minor evidences. The major ones are specific to that prophet. The minor ones are shared by many of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the 5 evidences, or the 6 evidences that proves the prophecy of a prophet. Okay, so again, let's go through them very quickly, so all of us will understand. Okay, so number 1, we said each and every prophet has multiple evidences. Okay, number 2, the prophet must have clear evidences to prove his prophecy. Okay, 3, they are they're beyond the ability of human beings. Okay, 4, they are secluded. The seclusion, they're only given to those prophets and not given to anyone else. And this is the difference between the Ahl Sunnah and Jama'ah and the Ash'aris. Okay, in which that they think that the aspect of challenge must be met. Okay, all right. The 5th one is that the 5th one is withdrawing from opposition, and meaning of this characteristics is that the proof of the prophets are forbidden to any creation to bring. Yeah, it's haram. These miracles are not given to anyone else except for what? For prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And number 6 is what? Disparity, meaning that there are on different levels and strength, major and minor evidences. And inshallah, with this, we're going to end our talk of the description of the prophecy of Allah, the prophecies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given to his prophets. All the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the true prophets that we see in the Quran, have all the prophets have these set of characteristics. And if you apply to each one of them, you will see all of them have fulfilled these characteristics by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فجزاكم الله خير لحسن استماعكم. سبحانك وبحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا. جزاكم الله خير. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.